This is a Mixing with Mike tip on setting the tweeter position for mixing. And this is something that's easily overlooked. But for certain speakers, the tweeter is actually offset from the monitor. And in this case, showing the classic Yamaha NS10, which still a lot of people use in recording studios. Quite often, what happens to someone who's not experienced at using or doesn't understand the history of the monitor, you'll notice that there actually is a left and a right speaker. Now, depending upon the height of the speaker and how it needs to be set up in terms of being put on stands or being put on the bridge of a console or on a desk, you may want to lay them flat or you may want to set them up vertically. So if the sitting position or the resting position is lower in order to get the tweeter height somewhere around your head, then the way that you want to configure them is so that the tweeter is on the outside and up. And the reason for this is very simple. In the spectrum of frequencies, lower frequencies have a tendency to be felt more than heard, and so we feel them mostly as a vibration sense through the floor. As we go up through the spectrum, the frequency spectrum, low mid frequencies reside very well in the lower mid area of the space in front of you. And as you go up, mid range frequencies have a tendency to sit in between the speakers. High mid frequencies have a tendency to come out towards you and raise up a little bit, and higher frequencies, which travel most freely above us to the ceiling because they're smaller in total wavelength, physical wavelength, and therefore they're less obstructed because there's typically nothing on the order of like couches and things like that that are probably sitting on top of your ceiling. So they travel most freely up there. And so our frequency spectrum starts low and goes high. And we want the speakers to sort of follow that same path. So you would never set your tweeters down on the bottom if you needed to stand them with the woofers up high, because that would go against the way that we actually hear. The other thing that high frequencies do is they have a tendency to spread sound a little bit outward. And so in this case, we want the tweeter elements to be focused more towards the outer side as opposed to the inner. If you're laying the speakers flat instead of setting them vertically, then you can actually see here with the Yamaha logo that that's exactly the way it's configured, with the tweeter on the outside. So you could see and read that the Yamaha NS10 is labeled just like that. So this is the way that you would lay it down if flat, if it were to be on a stand or on your desk, with the tweeter element to the outside and the low frequency driver towards the middle. Now, low frequencies will not have as wide of a stereo imaging as do high frequencies. And so therefore, what you want to do is you want to follow the natural order in terms of the way that we hear frequencies. In other words, putting the woofers on the outside is going to do more to damage the imaging quality of the high frequencies than it's going to do to enhance the imaging quality of the low frequencies. Therefore, having the tweeters up and on the outside is the real key for monitoring success. And this is true with any monitor, with any speaker that has the tweeter elements centered so the left and right are no different from each other. If you need to lay them flat, and not all monitors can be laid flat, just based on the actual cabinet design, but if they are, then ideally you want the tweeter elements set to the outside. Now, if you happen to get a manufacturer who recommends that the tweeter elements are on the inside, that may be for very specific reasons in terms of the way they actually angle those high frequency drivers within the cabinet. And if that's the case, you want to follow the recommendations of the speaker manufacturer because they are the ones who have designed the speaker, they've tested the speaker, and they know how it sounds best. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're ignoring acoustic principles. They are not. They go into them in very heavy detail in terms of the design of their speakers. And if you're probably spending a lot of money on them, then they probably have done their homework on it. So don't make assumptions, but as a general rule, tweeters up or out is your rule of thumb. There you go. There's Mixing with Mike tip on setting your tweeter position so that it's best suited for mixing. And if you like what you see on this tip and any of the others that you see, go to mpginsider.com and sign up for the Mixing with Mike classes. They're live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Thanks for tuning in.